Hi folks, welcome back to my channel where we are continuing to work with Azure DevOps. We've been working through a series where we created an Azure DevOps project, populated the Azure DevOps boards with work items in the backlog, and utilized Epic's features, user stories, and tasks. We've worked through building a default HTML page in HTML 4.01 using the standard. We've added lists and formatting, some links, anchor tags, images to the site, some style. We converted to HTML5, revalidated. We organized our code last time. And I'm going to skip the view source code portion right now, and we're going to go right into initializing the repository. Well, so far, we've been working on the local file system in the C projects folder, static HTML directory, and we've got code, right? But it's on my local hard drive, and if I want to do something with it or back it up or, preserve it a little bit and keep track of the history of changes, what we use is a Git repository to do that. So inside of Azure DevOps, in this repos section, is where you do that. So test1234 has a repository, and in that repository there are typically branches. Right now there's nothing because we haven't uploaded anything, so we haven't initialized the Git repository at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to that folder, and I'm there, and we are going to, I'm going to run a list directory so you can see that it's just the files that we've been working with. One of the things I want to pull up is a view that shows that we are showing hidden items. So there's nothing hidden here, and we'll see how that's important in a minute here. So I have Git installed. I type in Git, it pulls up, Git help, and it kind of pulls up that, basic set of commands. So inside this repository, being in this folder, I'm going to type in git init, and it's going to initialize this directory as a Git repository. And you'll see that it created or initialized the Git repository and created this .git folder. So now, because files are hidden, or in view, you'll see that there's a .git folder in here with a bunch of information. And really what it's doing is Git's keeping track of the files that we've added in there. And if we do git status, you'll see that there's been no commits. We're on branch master, and we have all of our files are untracked at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in git add to add those files to be tracked. And if I type in git status now, you'll see that they are tracked. They're cached or staged to be committed to the repository. So the next command we type in is git commit -m for message. Message is optional, but I think it's important to do every time. And I'm just going to call it my initial commit. And so now all these files and the 104 changes that I've made to those files have been added to the history and committed to the repository. Now, what we haven't done is pushed it up to this location, to the server itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the URL to that repository. We're going to say git push. I have the command up here somewhere. So the first thing we'll have to do, I think, is we have to do a git pull. The reason, no, we don't. Git push. So let's, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the remote repository as the origin. So now if I can git status, I believe. Yeah, so we're on branch master, nothing to commit, work tree is clean. So we're going to do a push. I think what we have to do is, yeah, we have to set the origin to master. So let's do this. Git push set origin master. Now what this is doing is taking our changes and uploading them to the remote server in the master branch. And that way, if we come back here and hit refresh, you'll see that all of our files are there. Now, one of the standards that I believe in is to always have a markdown file, a readme.markdown file.md that kind of describes your project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one. So this is a copy of the README that I was working with earlier. Just copy that. I actually deleted it, paste it in, and so it's kind of a standard template, so to speak. So there's an introduction, and what we do is we put in, this repo for static website for deployment using ops tools and spell correctly. I have spaces where they don't belong. All right, so let's save that. And so now, if we do a list and Git status, you'll see that there's a change. Right? So we've, in our local repository, we have made a change. So we need to upload that change and commit it to the repository. So we're going to go back through the same process. Git add, git commit, although this is not an initial commit anymore. We'll put readme documentation purposes. And now, since we've already added it as a remote, and we've already done a push, we can just do a git push, and it knows where to go, and it just takes it and deploys it to the URL that we've specified. And the way we know that is if we pop in here and refresh the page, there's our README file. If we click on README, that's the contents, the code, and if we click preview, that's how a README file, a markdown file gets rendered. So these codes, this indicates a header, this indicates an ordered list. So I believe actually if we make changes to this, I don't think we need to put the actual numbers in there. Let me make this change here. I think we just specify that it's a number. We don't have to keep track of what number it is. The system should do that automatically. So we'll go through the same process. Git add, git commit. Modified unordered list. We do a git push. And refresh. The README, we see that the code is 111. When you look at the preview, Markdown adds in the 234. It knows where it's left off. So that's kind of neat to me. You don't have to specify or keep track. If you have a long document, sometimes you lose track and things like that. So just specifying that it's a number in the ordered list, it keeps track of that. So now we've got our code in the repository, and that's kind of what we were looking to accomplish. Let's go back to our boards and the backlog, expand, and let's done the static HTML portion. We initialize the repo in Azure DevOps, including the README file. we cloned it locally. We actually didn't do it that way. We had it locally already. We've edited the README file. And then we used Git to save the README file to the master branch. So that's done. And that concludes this video. We've utilized Azure DevOps Repos to save our code and let me show you some of what that does for us, right? So inside this file, this README file, you see that there's a history. So I made a few changes to this, right? I added the README file, and notice it still had the 1, 2, 3, 4 in it. This is the code itself. If I go back to the history and click on the next file, you'll see that it identifies that I removed the 2, 3, 4 and added 1, 1, 1 here. It highlights the changes. I can also do side by side. So it'll say, all right, these are the things that have changed, and here's what they look like. This is the old, this is the new. And you can do a preview to see what the file looks like. But it keeps the track of that history is the point. If I go to commits, this is the commits on the entire repository. So the initial commit, add all of these files as new, right? The HTML file, the JPEG, all of these things, 5 changed files. I go back to commits, adding the README, it says, oh, you added a README. If I go back to commits, and then I modified the README, and it shows all of the changes. It also tells me who did it. So if I was on a team and a change happened that I didn't like, I could, I think there's actually something called blame. Let's see. Maybe not. But yeah, it keeps track of who's done what. So you can identify who's made the change. There it is, blame. So it keeps track of who made the change. I'm the only one that makes changes, so it's not really effective here. But there's a feature that will keep track of who made changes and highlight any changes that were made. So you can quote unquote blame or go figure out what changed, why it changed. Ask them why it changed and try and figure out if it's a valid change or undo it. If you don't like it. So that's the video. I hope you have a great day. If you found value in this video, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.